The criminal branding of Nigeria is not just about the foreign media calling us names. There are specific things that they say, giving truthful facts, but wrapping them in suppositions and prejudicial inferences to then tell a falsehood. And because the falsehood is intentional, this is not a mistake. It is a lie. One of the ways they do it is like this. Nigeria does have some security issues. However, when repeated armed robberies happen, kidnappings for money occur, and local security forces appear unable to find and arrest the criminals, it doesn't mean that there is a particularly bad gang of criminals running around. It means that there is a general lack of local confidence in the local economy and not enough wealth generating activity. There is poverty in that local area. The so-called Western foreign media like to declare an insecurity problem as a failure in government and not being tough on crime. Heavier policing is apparently the solution, and more well-equipped police officers. But it is a lie that security in a country is created by the police and making people too scared to be criminal. The countries that talk down on Nigeria the most about insecurity in our country know that the solution is not more police. It's jobs for poor people. They use this solution in their own countries, but they keep offering their help to increase security for us because they don't want you to create jobs for Nigerians. They want to create jobs for themselves. Our insecurity enables them to make money from our government by introducing Nigerian government officials to their consultancy firms that will charge us large fees and encourage us to buy security equipment from foreign companies that they recommend. And then they suggest that we use these things to terrorize our own citizens so that the criminals are chased away. What actually happens is that innocent people are caught up in security operations. The average citizen is even more distrusting of our government that the foreign media told them to blame for not creating the right environment for them to get a good job. And Nigeria is now too risky to invest in. And we Nigerians then won't create the very industrial infrastructure that will give our citizens a good job and stop them resorting to criminality to feed their family. Another aspect of the narrative of Nigeria is not a safe country because of all the insecurity is for the foreign media to present a comparison between the operation of the Nigerian government and the operation of their own governments. The Nigerian government is not solving the country's security problems. So therefore, they are incompetent. Unlike this country here that doesn't have any problems like that. When foreign media companies present news stories about events in Nigeria, they will first describe the context of the event. And the context that they usually give is Nigeria has a lot of people and a lot of insecurity. Insecurity is used as a code word for Nigeria's problems are caused by its government. This framing actively disempowers Nigerians Because these foreign media firms will never actually say exactly what it is that the Nigerian government is doing wrong. Only that a bad outcome is our government's fault. Utilizing this particular narrative of insecurity to control people is well known in international relations theory that these foreign countries teach, and is called the practice of securitization. This is where a political leader will declare a problem in their country to be a matter of security for the country. This then becomes the rationale for taking more power into the hands of senior leaders, becoming more authoritarian, reducing people's personal freedoms, and getting military personnel on the streets to control people's lives, or to solve the security problem. And if the application of military power is actually unwarranted, people will quite reasonably complain that their civil rights are being abused. So, this is how it works. If the foreign media can convince and encourage our citizens to complain that there's a security problem, we will then protest to get our own leaders to agree with us. Our politicians will then deploy military troops on our streets because we asked them to. And because there is nothing for them to actually solve, we will then complain that our human rights are being restricted as our police and military put curfews and movement restrictions in place to try and solve the security problem that isn't actually there. The foreign media will then loudly declare that our government is abusing its own people in the name of controlling security, that they are incompetent at fixing a security problem because our people are being abused. And they will suggest that their foreign government should use its own military to help us to fix our security problem that they fabricated. Naturally, our government will tell the foreign governments to keep their nose out of our business. By this time, our government will have found out that our military on the streets are actually causing protests, and that foreign interference won't make our people calmer. It would make things worse. Then the foreign media can declare our government to be incompetent, that our leaders do not support our best interests, and it might be a good idea for Nigerians to remove our corrupt, incompetent leaders. This is how coups happen. Iraq, Syria, Mali, Kenya, Ghana, Burkina Faso, Venezuela, Scotland, Niger, Chad, Guinea-Bissau, Hawaii, Libya, Somalia. All these countries had either successful or failed coup attempts supported by a foreign power, but escalated because of a security problem that was encouraged to become real by that foreign government, or sometimes by several governments. So, foreign media will hype up a security problem because our government and people are not behaving in ways that are useful to the foreign government that is backing that media. Why? Often because our people refuse to sell cheaply some raw material commodity that their companies want. And a different government for our country might then have people in it who are willing to sell out their own citizens for a bribe. The previous government just wasn't corrupt enough to be useful. This doesn't mean that some places in our country don't have genuine security issues. They do. But listening to foreign media complaining about security problems in Nigeria is dangerous for our country, because they will also suggest solutions that don't benefit us. We can call out incorrect behavior by our politicians ourselves. Thank you very much. We don't need you telling us that they are bad. They are not. They are misguided. Thank you. We will correct them ourselves, not you. Foreign governments know what actually solves security problems: creating jobs and reducing poverty. When they have really cared about solving security problems for themselves, they have actually tried to fix that problem. In the middle of the 2010s, the UK government was spending hundreds of millions of pounds on aid to Pakistan in its poorest regions. And a significant proportion of this was cash handouts paid directly to families. At the time, there was a clear security threat from sons and daughters of impoverished families supporting Islamicist organizations to attack the UK. The cash handouts solved the problem. As how would you actually support physical attacks against the UK when your mother is telling you not to talk that way, because the UK is getting your family fed that week and paying for your school textbooks? When a foreign news organization tells you that Nigeria has a security problem, find out where, when, how bad it really is, and what our government is already doing about it. And assume that the only reason the foreign news organization is bothering to talk about it is because doing so serves some interest within the nation that funds that news channel. Go and do your own research to find out what it is they want and how a security situation benefits them. Some of the largest foreign news organizations that operate directly in Nigeria, CGTV, the BBC, explicitly declare that their main purpose of existing is to present favorably the culture of their home nation. Effectively, they are saying that they are propaganda outlets for their home governments. You may think it is hypocritical that foreign governments use their news channels to present themselves as better than Nigeria, encourage Nigerians to blame our government alone for our problems, but never take responsibility for failing in their own duty to their citizens. But it is not, because these outlets are hawking propaganda, not informative news. Instead, they will give the politically appealing excuse of blaming their own internal problems on foreign migrants to their country, often our people, who they have actively encouraged to travel, so that they can then be utilized to hold up their own failing economies. The politicians in these countries will blame their insecurity issues on Nigerians and other migrants whom they have encouraged to leave their own countries because of insecurity issues that these foreign countries have both created and have lied to us about, has been a far more massive problem than they actually are. These lies, propaganda, make money for the companies of the countries behind the foreign media. Because Nigerians buy into the idea that only foreign governments, firms, and IDAs can solve our problems, which we then pay a foreigner to solve for us. But this is not the only income-generating lie that foreign media try and hawk to our citizens as truth. Foreign universities have massive recruitment operations in Nigeria. It is very difficult to find a Nigerian school that does not have some form of promotional posters or leaflets selling a foreign university outside of Africa to the SSS 3 pupils. For this to actually result in Nigerians following the SACE leaflets and leaving our country to study abroad, the education systems of those countries must be sold as better than Nigeria's. What is quite sickening for me is that they market this as helping us to get us out of our bad country and study abroad, where we can get taught properly, because their education system is better than ours, when it is quite clear from their income alone that these countries need our money. I mentioned before in an earlier video about Nigeria versus the UK that in 2021-2022, the UK made £1.9 billion in direct income from Nigerian students and their dependents. This was almost 0.1% of the UK's total GDP that year. That was direct income. It does not include the extra indirect income from students and their families when they pay for rent, food, transport to and from university, clothing, etc. And these people try to sell themselves as though they are saving our young people from our country's bad, insecure, criminal situation, when it is we, Nigerians, that are clearly helping the UK to prevent them falling into poverty after the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic consequences of Brexit. It is not just the UK that is doing this. Many countries with a strong foreign media presence in Nigeria are luring our people away with promises of opportunity. But when our sons and daughters actually arrive in those foreign places, they are denigrated for probably being Nigerian criminals who are only managing to pay over double the standard university fees because of their parents' criminality. The fact that our children are propping up their economies does not prevent our children receiving race-based abuse and discrimination from people who are clutching at a delusion of their own significance, that their 1%, their so-called elites, have fed them to keep them in their place, whilst using our citizens to pay their pensions. When the foreign media talks down on our country's educational capability, said that it needs improving, and then their businesses hawk foreign education courses, then this is a clear attempt to prevent us improving our educational capability. If they really wanted to support Nigeria, then these foreign countries would be giving assistance to get our own courses and institutions formally recognized by their educational councils. However, if they did this, then they would not be able to utilize one of their current money-making schemes. Every Nigerian who has been taught to our standards currently has to spend money on an additional year of study at a foreign university before they are allowed to start their course. Almost everywhere outside the continent of Africa does this. And at the same time as they are declaring that our teaching standards are not good enough, they are actively and preferentially recruiting Nigerian teachers to teach in their own schools. In June 2022, the UK changed its policy on recognizing foreign teachers under their qualified teacher scheme. They extended the scheme beyond the European Union to accept teachers from Nigeria and other African countries. Additionally, they have removed the need for teachers from those countries to even meet the QTS standard for the first 4 years of working in the UK, as long as the teacher is recognized as competent by our own Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. So, effectively, the UK has recognized the competency of our education systems, but does not want to do so formally, because then they would have to pay our teachers a full salary as a fully trained teacher. Wouldn't be able to kick out our teachers after getting 4 years of cheap labor out of them, and also would have no excuse for talking down on our educational institutions as a way to convince Nigerians to spend £1.9 billion a year on applying to study in the UK. Another example is Canada. In November 2022, Canada commended the quality of Nigeria's teachers and promptly asked our Teachers Registration Council if they could recruit 260 of them to work in Canada's schools. In Australia, in March 2023, whilst there is already a route for foreign teachers to be recognized as competent, a Nigerian foreign teacher can now work for up to 5 years in Western Australia with only provisional recognition, because Western Australia needs more teachers. In this, let me speak for a moment to Nigerian teachers in Nigeria. If you are watching this and thinking, oh, I can get a job in the UK, Canada, or Australia then, don't jackba and desert your students who need you. Your country that needs you. The people who are able to fix the problems in our country and ensure that other countries recognize our excellence are people like you. Running away to make your own personal life better, whilst understandable as a human, does not make you a proud Nigerian in a foreign land. It makes you an ashamed Nigerian in a foreign land, because you had the skills to fix your nation and you chose to abandon it. But for the rest of us, we as Nigerians must recognize our own, our teachers, and praise them so they wouldn't feel the need to leave. But let me get back to the way the foreign media is branding us as educationally incompetent to make money. Foreign countries luring our citizens away to become students is not just a way to maintain only their universities. They are also selling extended visa opportunities if you do postgraduate work at their universities, which is a way to take the best of our human capital at the most productive time in a person's life and capture all the intellectual property they may generate from academic research. The fruits of this are then sold back to Nigeria through their companies. But this time, they can ensure that a Nigerian face is presenting their narrative of how Nigeria should be compared against their own country, selling the propaganda of the foreign country being capable and competent compared against Nigeria having all sorts of problems that only the foreign company can solve, which you as a Nigerian could be part of. Just like this Nigerian employee in our shiny advert. Sorry, business news program. Saying how working for this foreign firm changed their life. So basically, Nigerians are creating intellectual property for these foreign companies. The intellectual property that they will use over the next 10 years to try and tell us and our children that they and their universities are better than us. But we created the very things that they are trying to hold over our heads as evidence of them being better than. Because of how lucrative this foreign education business can be, particularly when a student continues work afterwards in a country. Some countries have extended the period that a student can look for work after study. The UK used to only allow up to 3 months after studying. But in 2021, they extended this to 2 years for a bachelor's or master's degree and 3 years for a PhD. In Germany, you used to be allowed to look for a job for just 18 months after gaining a German degree, and you had to stay in Germany whilst you were job hunting. Now you can leave and still get a visa later on to then stay for 12 months to look for a job in your field of study. And many universities in countries where English is not spoken as an official language are creating courses that are taught in English to attract Nigerian students. I am not advocating that we should be supporting our people to take any of these options because they are all designed to extract intellectual property out of the heads of Nigerian students and into the hands of foreign companies. So whilst Nigerians are complaining on social media about our country having bad educational provision, other countries are looking at this as a money-making opportunity for themselves. These countries also see how much money Nigerians are willing to spend. And they know that if we spent the same amount of money at our own universities, then we wouldn't have any need to be complaining. They know that the way they are conducting their business to maintain their educational capability is preventing us from building our own capability. And they like it that way because they think it keeps us reliant on them. They need us to lose faith in ourselves. If you look at what is available for Nigerians to watch on their TV, it's all foreign shows. And more importantly, foreign things. These are presented in such a way that a Nigerian watching it will automatically compare the fantasy foreign lifestyle against the worst parts of what is only a few people's lives in Nigeria. This makes Nigerians at all levels of wealth in our society be discontent with what they have because we are believing what the foreign media is selling. Nigerians who consume this media accept the lie that what they already have is worse than a foreign fantasy, not realizing that the lifestyle and standard of living that they have in Nigeria is often equal to or even much better than the lifestyle of the majority of people who live in that foreign country that we are admiring. This narrative has been so ingrained into our consciousness by the foreign media that should we visit those foreign countries, we exceptionalize their poverty when we see it, and instead start looking to join that group of successful foreigners who they showed to us on their movie, TV show, or foreign advert. That group either doesn't exist or it is so small that they feel compelled to use their money and power to segregate themselves from the rest of their people. Because if they did share their wealth and opportunities with the rest of society, they would then lose their ability to dominate and bully their people. They would lose the ability to be white people to them and declare themselves as better than. It is not just in Nigeria, but in their own countries that the European 1% need the lie that white people are better than black people to distract their own people. They need their own people to believe the lie of our poverty in comparison to them, so that their own people will believe themselves to have lifestyles that are better than those of Nigerians and other Africans. This is to ensure satisfaction with the scraps that the European 1% have thrown from their table at the people that they have told, don't worry, you are white and not poor like those black people. This lie distrusts their own people, so the European 1% don't have to share the wealth that they stole and keep parasitically stealing from everyone else. In Nigeria, however, they need a slightly different narrative. They don't just need us to think of them as better than us. No. They need us to believe that in comparison, we are incapable of ever being as successful as them. That to fully achieve our potential, we must either do something with them, employ them in our firms or buy their stuff, or be part of what they are doing. We must be employed by them, either in Nigeria or by traveling abroad to get a job in their country. So, the narrative of our poverty is to control their people, and the narrative of our incapability is to control us. Both narratives can feed off each other, but both narratives are designed to maintain the power of the European 1% over everyone else and keep everyone's money flowing through their hands so that they can live off it. I have spoken about 3 specific strategies that foreign countries use to make money: securitization, predatory selling of education, and poaching of our young citizens to create intellectual property, and encouraging us to believe a lie of our own incapability to sell us stuff. All these approaches won't work without utilizing news media. Thank you for watching. Look out for part 5, where I will be going into detail about specific tactics that the foreign 1% use to make sure their narratives get properly embedded into the minds of our people to then control us. Please support Nowogh Talks by hitting the like button and subscribing. Hit the notification button below and also leave a comment so that we can continue the discussion.